I want to start this video off with a cautionary true story. A family was sending their daughter to a very great school, high credentials and expensive, and one of their coworkers said, "Don't bother filling out FAFSA. It's just not worth your time. You're not going to get anything from it." And so the family listened. They said, okay, well then we're not going to waste our time doing that. So freshman year comes along and they decide to go to the financial aid department and ask, is there anything you can do to make this more affordable? We're really struggling to pay the bill. When the financial aid department pulled up her file, they realized that she never submitted FAFSA. So they had them submit FAFSA for the following year. And lo and behold, had she have submitted it her senior year in high school, they found out that she would have received $17,000 in aid from the university. $17,000. That equates to $68,000 over the 4 years of her college degree. Now that is a huge amount of money that this family missed out on, all because they didn't submit a really important form called FAFSA. Unfortunately, stories like this are not very rare. I hear this all the time from families who were told by a friend or a family member not to submit this very critical form for college. So in today's video, I want to prepare you and your family to make sure that not only do you submit FAFSA, but you know what it is, how to be eligible, and how to maximize debt-free money through submitting FAFSA. I'm also going to wrap up with what not to do when submitting FAFSA. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college so that families can avoid student loan debt and build strong financial futures while still enabling their children to pursue college degrees. Let's go ahead and jump into this. So FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. Now, why is FAFSA important? This form is how families can become eligible for government funding. Now, some of it is debt, I will explain that in a bit, but some of it does not have to be paid back. So I'm going to give you all the different types of money that your student can be eligible for by submitting this form. Now you might be thinking, oh, well, can I get better money from, say, a credit union or a private bank? Typically, that's not the case. Typically, money through the government is the best bet. That's the first line of defense that families should go after, and then you can get money from elsewhere. So what kinds of monies are available through FAFSA? The first is one of the most important. Now, some people might call this the FAFSA Scholarship, but in reality, they are actually grants. So grants are money that does not have to be paid back, such as the Pell Grant or the Competitiveness Grant. These are typically based on financial needs. So this is where families say, oh, you're not going to get anything. Maybe you don't get the grants, but still, you can't even have the option of getting them if you don't submit this form. Now, again, those grants do not have to be paid back, so they are a lot like scholarships. The next type of money that also does not have to be paid back, but it does have to be earned, is work study. So work study is where a student can get a job on campus where maybe they're working in the cafeteria or the bookstore, and in exchange, they receive a certain amount of money in their financial aid package. Now, typically we tell families to make sure that it's a decent hourly rate, or else your student can just get a job at a normal place and possibly make more money for their time. So that's something to consider here. But still, this is debt-free money that you can only access by submitting FAFSA. Now, the third are student loans. Now, while we want all of our families to avoid student loans in total, the best student loans, if we have to borrow money, is through the government. There are two types of different loans, subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. I'm going to have a separate video explaining the difference between the two, but the only way to access this money is through the government. We saw during COVID times that they froze interest and payments on these government loans. They were the first ones to do it. Now, because they were government, they were able to do it a lot easier and faster than a lot of the private companies. That's just one benefit. But secondly, a lot of times the interest rate is simply just better for students. So again, while we don't want anyone to have to borrow any kind of student debt, if we do have to borrow something, the first place we want to get it is through FAFSA. Now, of course, we always want us to avoid any kind of debt. So that said, I am going to link to a free training on how to get outside scholarships that you can use in addition to those grants or work study or any kind of money that you have for college. So outside scholarships are where we can get them from smaller outside organizations and use those to help pay for college. This is how I got my debt-free degree. So if you want to attend that free training, just go to the description below and register for that. All right, let's go ahead and get into what they're looking for when it comes to FAFSA eligibility. So first and foremost, in most cases, students need to be a US citizen in order to be eligible. They also are oftentimes first come, first serve. So this means in order to be eligible for the maximum amount of money through the university, through submitting FAFSA, you want to submit your FAFSA application as close to the opening date as possible. Now, at the time of recording this, that opening date is October 1st of your student's fall semester senior year. Now, the one thing I want to make a point of here is that you want to have your students submit this every single year while they're in college. So this is not a one and done kind of thing, because think about it, it's based on your financial situation and that changes every single year. So you want to resubmit it and you want to try to submit it as close to that October 1st opening date as possible. Now, it doesn't have to be on October 1st. We've had some families kind of freak out if they're like, oh, I don't have my stuff ready yet, but that's completely fine even if you get it in the first month or two. Just please don't wait until spring, because by then they've already awarded a lot of money, and so your student might be limited on what they can access. Now, the third aspect of FAFSA eligibility really comes down to a number that is the result of submitting FAFSA. So at the time of recording this, until 2022-2023 school year, it is called the EFC, Expected Family Contribution. But after, they are renaming this and kind of changing it a little bit, but it's called the SAI, the Student Aid Index. They are very similar. It's basically a number saying what your family can afford to pay for that year. You probably won't agree with this number, but that's the results of FAFSA. Now, the lower the number, the more money your student is eligible to receive from the government as well as from the university. So remember, again, think back to that story at the beginning of this video. This is not just about getting government money. This is about getting money through the university as well. So how can we submit this amazing form that can possibly get us thousands of dollars off our costs for college? First and foremost, you want to collect any kind of tax information from prior year. So say you're submitting this for school year of 2022, you would want to gather 2020 tax information. So they use prior year. That way, the chances of you having your taxes done are much higher. It used to be prior year, so this is very helpful for families. Secondly, you want to collect any kind of extenuating circumstances, any kind of evidence, maybe extreme medical bills, or maybe a proof that since those tax returns, your financial situation has greatly changed, maybe loss of income, loss of a job, anything like that that can show, hey, this tax return is not reflective of our current financial situation. That might help you get more money through the university. I'm going to have a separate video on how to do an appeal through the university for more money, so keep an eye out. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss that amazing video in the future that's going to come out soon. Now, in addition to tax information and any extenuating circumstance information, you also want to gather any kind of assets. So at the time of submitting, you have to submit what your assets are then. So whether it's tax accounts or bank accounts or investment accounts, any kind of assets that you and your family have, you will need to submit those in this form. So once you collect everything, you then have to make your own login, and your student has a separate login through the FAFSA government website. Now, you do not have to pay to submit FAFSA, okay? Paying for someone to assist you in collecting information or strategizing, that's different, but the actual submission is free. It's through the government, it's completely free. But you each do need your own login. The nice thing about this is come following year, a lot of times it saves your information. Now, the other nice thing is that when you log in, a lot of times you can use the IRS retrieval tool, which will automatically populate with your tax information. Now, if it doesn't, you've already gathered the information, so you can simply fill it in. Now, once you submit your FAFSA, you will receive your EFC or your SAI number, whichever one it is now, and that will give you an idea of what your family is expected to contribute towards college for that school year. So let's talk about what not to do when submitting FAFSA. First and foremost, do not skip submitting it, okay? We learned from that first story that this is a very important form when it comes to school. In fact, I just learned that Texas requires it for their seniors to graduate. So you have to submit FAFSA just to see what kind of money you possibly could receive. That is because they realize the importance of this form. Second, you do not want to submit any kind of inaccurate or incorrect information. That can possibly hold up your application, push it back, which could mean that other students are getting money before your family. Now, if something happens like that, don't panic, contact them right away and get it corrected. But still, ideally, you want to take your time when submitting this so that you just don't have any errors from the beginning. Third, don't skip tax season. You need that information in order to submit FAFSA, so please make sure that you've submitted your taxes that will be used in 2 years moving forward. So remember, it's based on prior year. Fourth, you don't want to assume that whatever your initial financial aid offer is your only option. Like I mentioned, we're going to have a video on how to appeal what your financial aid package is. So that first initial offer might be able to change depending on what kind of evidence you can collect. So keep that in mind, that maybe that first number or that first offer is not said and done. And lastly, and most importantly, do not just do FAFSA. Do not just rely on the money through this. You should be searching for other money. And again, I'm going to link to a free training where you can learn the 6 steps to securing scholarships outside of FAFSA, and that way your family can start bringing in money. In fact, your student can start doing this as early as sophomore, junior year in high school, and can continue doing it all throughout college. So you can submit FAFSA, but in addition to it, we want to submit additional applications for money so that we can really maximize that debt-free money for paying for college. So just click the link below in the description to register for that free training. So there you have it. FAFSA is an incredible opportunity, especially for middle to lower income families, so that you can possibly tap into debt-free money or even just student loans with better terms for your student. Make sure that you take advantage of submitting FAFSA every single year, starting your students' senior fall semester, so that you don't miss out on tons of money like the family that I told you about at the beginning of this video. Remember that there's no fee to submit it, and it's easier year after year because it tends to save your information in your login. If you found this video helpful, make sure that you click the subscribe button, and don't forget that free training in the description below. You can take advantage of that so that you can start working on outside money beyond FAFSA. I'll see you in the next video.